Joyce Meyer is a famous Christian leader around the world and is one of the richest female preachers in the United States. She has inspired millions of people through TV, radio, and books like Battlefield of the Mind and Living Beyond Your Feelings. Her lectures are known for being honest and biblical. She built a Christian empire that reaches from the United States to the most remote parts of Africa. But lately, things haven't been going so well. There are a lot of questions because of surgeries, events that were canceled, and even government probes. What's wrong with Joyce Meyer? Do you know about it? Let's find out. It was started by Joyce and Dave Meyer, who stopped being Christians in 1985. They were eager to begin their nonprofit work as Life in the Word. Over the years, the ministry was popular with TV shows, radio shows, and conferences. She has always been honest about how she plans to grow her organization. At age 9, she was born again. But in 1976, as she was praying deeply on the way to work, she heard God's voice calling her name. At that moment, she knew she was meant to be a pastor. Joyce first became a member of St. Louis Our Savior's Lutheran Church and taught Bible at a nearby restaurant. After that, she got involved with the Fenton Church Life Christian Center. She became the associate preacher after a few years. People became very interested in the church because she taught the Bible so well. She began her 15-minute radio show on a station in St. Louis. Then in 1985, she quit her job as associate preacher and started her own ministry called Life in the Word. She also started having her radio show on a lot of other stations in Chicago and Kansas City. After that, in 1993, her husband suggested that they start a TV ministry called Life in the Word. Her show, Enjoying Everyday Life, is still on the air. By 2002, Hachette Book Group had paid her more than $10 million for the rights to publication of her own books. Times Magazine also named her one of the 25 most important Christians in the United States. Her annual meeting for women in St. Louis drew thousands of women and grew in popularity. Joyce Meyer also started Hand of Hope, the mission arm of her church that fed people, gave them medical care, and ran other outreach programs. In the Christian community, she became well known, and her lessons helped millions of people get better and meet their needs. She taught about how God can heal and how she had been abused in the past, striking a chord with viewers. Over many years, Joyce Meyer built a large organization that reaches people all over the world. But recent events have shown that her ministry is under a lot of stress, which could be because of work expectations or personal issues. A noticeable drop in live events and public performances is one sign. In the past, Joyce Meyer's live conferences and speaking engagements were very important to her mission, getting a lot of people excited to learn from her. Some of these events have happened less often though, especially since many of her live shows have been replaced by pre-recorded ones. This change is because the government is having trouble because they need to save money and figure out how to make things work. Joyce Meyer's ministry is no longer on TV, which is another sign of how busy the ministry is. Reverend Larry Rice of the New Life Evangelistic Center used to run the St. Louis Christian station KNLC, where her TV show used to air. He stopped airing Meyer's shows and said it was because of her crazy lifestyle. He said that many of her lessons went beyond the Bible, so he ended the show. The private jet being grounded and the cutting back on foreign operations have also had an effect on Joyce Meyer's ministry. People had always said she used her private jet for her own pleasure, which caused a lot of problems because of how much she spent. Joyce Meyer used to be able to connect with people all over the world through her ministry, which was backed by a lot of travel. But the size of these efforts has shrunk, and a lot of people are wondering if that's because of money problems. The ministry's focus on social media has changed from live updates to pre-recorded messages and motivational lines. This shows that they are trying to keep in touch with people while working within their means. Even though these changes make sure that the presence will still be there, they may not offer live interactions, movement, or a personal link. Meyer's personal energy and level of interest also seem to have changed. People have seen a change in her energy level when she's giving speeches, and she seems to need less time to recover between events. These signs could be caused by getting older, health problems, or the results of being in ministry for a long time. If you're asking what happened to Joyce Meyer, it's not just about her work as a minister. She has also been having problems with money and running her business. Joyce Meyer Ministries has been a well-known Christian service group around the world for a long time. Still, the ministry has had a lot of problems with money and running its business over the years, mostly because of increased attention from the public and higher costs of doing business. From 2007 to 2011, the ministry was the subject of a Senate probe led by Senator Chuck Grassley. The investigation was into how donations were misused. Part of the reason for this attention was news of expensive purchases like a $43,000 table and a $10 million Gulfstream jet. A lot of people said she lived too lavishly, which was strange since her ministry was meant to help others. Even before the Senate investigation, the ministry had to deal with a lot of problems and questions, mostly because of her wealth and way of life. According to a story from 2003, the group has paid for fancy things like Joyce's $2 million house and extra homes for her 4 children. She also got her husband a silver gray Mercedes sedan that cost $107,000. The ministry's offices were worth $20 million and had expensive furniture and art worth $5.7 million. These made watchdog groups call the IRS and ask them to look into them. In answer, Joyce Meyer Ministries changed things to make their finances clear. She cut her pay to $250,000 a year and changed how she got paid for selling books. The organization also supported the way it handles money, and she did the same, saying, "We don't have to say sorry for being blessed." Taking care of a big ministry with almost 1,000 workers in 38 different countries is not easy. The costs of running the business have been very high, with yearly insurance premiums reaching $2 million. The group's many foreign activities and efforts to reach out to people need a lot of money, which is made even harder by the constant criticism of its money management. In the past few years, the ministry's private jet may have been grounded because of efforts to cut costs and change how people see the ministry. The rising costs of running global operations and changing amounts of donations add to the stress. Joyce Meyer has always defended the way her church handles money, stressing the benefits of wealth and how important it is to live a debt-free life. Meyer's view adds to a larger discussion going on in the Christian community about money and being a good caretaker. She has said that ministers are often held to a higher standard and get criticized for making a lot of money, which would be praised in other jobs. Even with this defense, Meyer has been humble about the criticism, saying that her earlier lessons that focused on prosperity needed to be changed. This acknowledgement shows that she is trying to make sure that her ministry's financial practices are in line with its spiritual purpose. It also shows that she is committed to growth and accountability. Joyce Meyer Ministries has had a lot of problems with money and running its business, but it has been able to keep a big influence around the world by adapting to scrutiny and rising costs. Some worries have been eased by the organization's responses to criticism, such as making things more clear and lowering Meyer's personal pay. But the ministry is still trying to find a good mix between its many tasks, how the public sees them, and its ability to stay in business. Even as Meyer's teachings change and the ministry adapts, its strength and dedication to its purpose will always be important to its lasting impact. When Joyce Meyer Ministries was sued for wrongful death in 2011, they had to deal with another problem. Christopher Coleman, who was in charge of security for her ministry, was arrested in 2009 on suspicion of murder after the bodies of his wife Sherry Coleman and their 2 boys were found at their home. All 3 of them died from being strangled. This caused a shocking scandal that spread through the government. Christopher Coleman was found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder in 2011 after a long hearing. He was then given 3 life sentences. The prosecution says that Chris wrote the killings as part of a plan to leave his wife for another man with whom he was having an affair. He was also afraid that he would lose his job at Joyce Meyer Ministries if the news got out about his affair. What did this mean for Joyce Meyer Ministries, though? Sherry Coleman's family sued the ministry for wrongful death, saying that Joyce's carelessness as a counselor caused the deaths of the 3. The lawsuit says that Christopher Coleman sent his family several frightening letters without giving his name so that no one would think he killed them. It was also said that Meyer should have known the letter wasn't real and told his wife about it. In 2013, Circuit Judge Richard Aguirre threw out the case. The murders and the subsequent information about Coleman's personal life had a big impact on how the church worked together. Employees were shocked that someone in a key leadership position could act in such a bad way. This loss of trust made the organization look at itself and rethink how it hires people and keeps an eye on them. Because of this, Joyce Meyer Ministries tightened the way they hire people. More thorough background checks, psychological evaluations and character checks were done to make sure that people's values matched up with the ministry's purpose. Leadership also put a high priority on creating a culture of openness and responsibility in order to rebuild trust and protect against future weaknesses. Because of the tragedy, the government changed the way it does things. Along with better screening of possible employees, there was a focus on making the workplace a safe place to be where people felt comfortable talking about problems or concerns. Some of the things that were done were giving management better training and making it easier for people to talk about sensitive issues. The tragedy also made it clear how important it is to keep personal and work lives separate. The people in charge knew that keeping this difference was important for the ministry's reputation and for the health and safety of the workers. She has also been open about her family background, especially the times she was abused. Following her graduation from O'Fallon Technical High School, she married a part-time car seller not long after her senior year. The marriage lasted 5 years, and she said that her husband cheated on her a lot and tried to get her to steal her boss's paychecks. On their trip to California, they spent the money, but she said she would return it years later. After they got separated, she went to a lot of bars in the area before she met engineering draftsman Dave Meyer. On January 7, 1967, they got married. David Meyer, Daniel Meyer, Laura Marie and Sandra Ellen were their 4 children. In some way, all 4 of her children are active in the ministry. This may be a good thing, but it has hurt her ministry. Dave Meyer, Joyce Meyer's husband, has been in the ministry for almost 30 years and is now vice president of the ministry. Then Daniel Meyer, her youngest son, runs the ministry's business in the U.S. Another son of hers is David Meyer. He is the CEO of Hand of Hope, which is the mission part of Joyce Meyer Ministries. The other children of hers have also played important parts in the organization's growth and vision. There have been many problems though, because family members work outside of work. It was hard to separate church duties from family issues because these choices often had personal effects. The family has always been a part of choices about promotions, responsibilities, and changes to the ministry's strategy. Joyce Meyer started to ease off of her previously busy schedule of public appearances and leadership duties, and her son Daniel Meyer took on a bigger part. This change was a big one for the church, and it meant that leadership and the way families interact had to change too. Daniel's growing list of duties showed how hard it is to pass on leadership in a family-run business. He had to carefully figure out how to balance his responsibilities as a rising leader with keeping the peace in the family. He had to respect the ministry's history, while also putting new ideas into action, which made his job even more difficult. This change put the family's ability to adapt while staying true to the purpose and values of the ministry to the test. So depending on family members has given us a shared vision and a lot of trust, but it has also left us open to some risks and problems. Having both family and work responsibilities affects how people deal with conflicts, make decisions, and connect with each other in their daily lives. Many people have said that her ministry is biased against her family members because they are given jobs or special treatment based on family ties instead of their own skills. Because of this, they are against the ministry's plan to add family members to their work. At the same time, there are problems with money disputes. A lot of people say that Joyce Meyer spends tens of thousands of dollars on furniture. The church also bought Joyce and her 4 kids homes for at least $4 million. Pays for all of their utilities, repairs, landscaping, and improvements. A lot of people who didn't like her said that her family was making money from their job. In the church, even if they are in charge, the fact that they hold all the top jobs and make the most money from the government makes people suspicious. Another problem is that the ministry is not open about what it does. Because the family runs the ministry, the way it works on the inside is not clear. It is also affected by how family members act and what the jobs. The world was shocked when Joyce Meyer admitted that her ideas about faith and wealth had become out of whack. She has preached all over the world and written more than 100 books. She also said that someone who didn't have faith would have hard times. This led to a lot of scandals and charges. Many people said she was putting poor people down and accusing them of not having faith. But after years, she came out, putting up a video on Instagram that changed everything she taught. She told him, "I'm glad I learned about, but it got out of hand. I'm glad I learned more about, but it became too much for me. When someone was having trouble, I thought it was because they didn't have enough faith. You didn't have enough faith if you got sick. You didn't have enough faith if your child died. That's not right. The Bible doesn't say anywhere that we will never have any problems." The fact that she owned her mistake in public and said she would change her mind shocked everyone. Also, it doesn't matter how much hope you have, you'll still have problems. Jesus told them, "There will be trouble in the world, but don't worry. I have won over the world." Last but not least, Joyce Meyer changed what she taught and even said she was sorry for spreading the famous prosperity gospel that many televangelists talked about. The prosperity gospel is the Christian idea that God wants people who believe in Him to be rich and healthy, and that faith will lead to material gospel. A lot of preachers talk about, but it's kind of religion, which says that people who can get out of poverty and sickness by having faith and thinking positively. This was also something Joyce Meyer talked about. People have said that it is greedy and manipulative, because it gets people to pay large gifts and tithes in order to be blessed and healthy. Some people say it preaches something different from the real faith of Jesus. Joyce Meyer has also been having a lot of health issues lately, which has made a lot of her fans worried about her.
After being in a wheelchair for a long time, she said on social media that she is finally getting better. She told everyone in her video that she would soon be able to walk on her own terms. The minister, who was 85 years old, has caused a lot of worry about her health. She also had surgery and had some problems afterwards. She has also had some emotional problems, especially because it's hard to meet everyone's standards. It was a surprise because she has taught many people how to get over sadness, deal with anxiety, and handle their feelings. A lot of her lectures are about how to get over hurt feelings and hold on to God's love. In recent years, people have talked a lot about Mayer's health and health problems. In 2019, people saw her tremor during one of her visits, which led to online conversations about her health. Meyer hasn't said anything official about these rumors, but they led to more talk about her ability to handle the tough duties of ministry leadership. These observations were made even more common on social media sites, where clips and comments spread quickly, causing worry and criticism. Joyce Meyer has been looked at by the media for many reasons, mainly because she is popular on social media. People respond to everything she says, does, or appears in public, and they often criticize what she teaches. That being said, it has helped her get millions of new followers and get her work out all over the world. People have long had strong opinions about Mayer's beliefs, especially her focus on prosperity theology. Some of her fans think that her message that faith can lead to personal and financial blessings is too simple and focused on material things, while others find it encouraging and hope-giving. Some people say that teachings about prosperity can take advantage of weak people by getting them to give to the church with the hope of getting money in return. Meyer has admitted that her views on faith and wealth were once out of line, but this has not stopped people from criticizing her. Meyer's habit of telling personal stories during her lectures is another point of contention. Some viewers like how honest and relatable she is, but others think that her stories take over her lessons and take away from her deeper theological insights. Her mission still has trouble finding the right balance between being authentically herself and giving spiritual advice to others. Meyer's spending on mission and way of life have also gotten a lot of negative attention. Reports of expensive things like a $10 million private jet, fancy houses, and pricey furniture have led to claims of waste and fraud involving ministry funds. Meyer has said that her spending is a sign of God's gifts, but some people say that it makes her less credible as a faith leader. These worries came up during a Senate investigation into the funds of her ministry. The investigation was eventually closed, but it raised questions about how open the ministry's finances are. Joyce Meyer's public life shows how hard it is to run a world ministry in a time of increased scrutiny. She has inspired millions of people with her lessons and testimony, but she's constantly criticized for her health, her beliefs, and the amount of money she spends. This shows how hard it is to keep up a perfect image as a faith leader. Her church is still working hard to find the right balance between being real and being responsible. What do you think will happen with Joyce Meyer's ministry? Type your ideas in a box. Enjoy your break and we'll see you soon.